30% of foster youth graduate college and go on to become successful, self-sustaining adults. That's the goal, right? Is to create the society that we want. Each one of you in here, whether you realize it or not, or think about it this way, you're leaving that legacy behind. How many people you've helped, how many people you've assisted along the way. And it can be the simplest things. And so you'll hear me talk about the people, the instrumental people in my life, from track coaches, foster parents, teachers, social workers, all of them making a difference. For better or worse, they're at least trying. All right, and I'm one of those success stories. So going back to California, I already have a sister. Yes, her name is Eve. Everyone's asked the joke. Where is Eve? If you must know where Eve is at, she is in Providence, Rhode Island, teaching at Providence University, teaching sociology, married one of the heirs to Anheuser-Busch, so I didn't quite make it there, but I consider myself pretty successful. And we both have PhDs, so nah. But no, and I had two younger brothers, Noah and Christopher. My mother gave us all biblical names, which took me a while to get used to mine, but I did grow into it. Did not like it growing up, but that's a different story. That being said, here we are in Burbank, California, high-rise apartment, palm trees, concrete. My sister's father is my stand-in father. Again, he's the first one who didn't have to do what he did, but he stepped up. So, my sister's father. He is responsible for my positive childhood memories in California. McDonald's, all right? Remember the Happy Meal toys with the Hamburglar, Grimace, all of that good stuff. So, yeah, that the California raisins, all of that stuff always brings back good memories to me. And it was because of him and my sister. Now, I do remember arguments. My sister versus my mother. Why are you drinking? You have my three brothers here, and you're drinking. And she was 8 at the time. And so she's sitting there yelling at my mother. She's in the mother role, talking to my mother, who's slumped over with Milwaukee's best beer cans all over the apartment. To this day, I still cannot handle the smell of Milwaukee's best. And it's not because it's nasty. It's because of that traumatic experience. It still makes my stomach flip anytime I'm near it. So I try to avoid it at all costs. Fast forwarding that story a little bit, my brothers and I and my mother are evicted from that apartment. Nowhere to go. I didn't find out until 2 years ago when I had a chance to revisit California that my sister's father paid for our plane tickets. If he did not, we were homeless out there in the concrete jungle. So we flew over, not too far from here, Rappahannock, Virginia. Some of you all may know it, Woodville, on Stark's farm. So imagine this little kid enjoying his ice cream truck, enjoying his McDonald's, loving the sunshine, palm trees, and now I'm on a farm. Right? Chickens, why are they running around? Why aren't they chicken nuggets? Right? What are these cows? I did not know burgers came from cows at the time, but they might as well have been dinosaurs. I was terrified of these things. These cows are walking around everywhere. Chickens are chasing me. Ducks are chasing me. Everything's trying to kill me. Why are we here? I kept asking my mom, when are we going back to California? And she always made that promise, we were going back. Well, we never made it back. It took 35 years for me to make it back there. And we lost our belongings because they were in storage and they never made it over. You know, when you don't pay your storage bill, they sell your stuff. So that was it. So the clothes I had on my back, whoops. Clicking that too far. I'm sorry. So the clothes I had on my back was it. All right, one of the things I had on my back was that little shell uniform. So food insecurity was a reality for me. out. The everyday, the 3 meals that's sitting at the table, it was scrounging for whatever you could get. And I realized that my brothers, my younger brothers, were going hungry. I couldn't have that. I don't know what innate nurturing capability, I don't know how that came about, but it did. I knew it was up to me to save myself and my brothers. While my mom was drinking, while my mother was bringing strange men into the house that were beating her to a pulp, I have no idea why that came about. But when we started school, all right, Rappahannock County schools, that was my saving grace, because that allowed me, see those little zipper pockets up there, that allowed me to stuff food in those little zipper pockets. It didn't matter if it was green beans, hush puppies, chicken nuggets, pizza, whatever. All right, I saw my friends were wasting, my new friends were wasting food. I was hungry, put 2 and 2 together, and I would empty out those squishy pockets and put it on the table, and my brothers and I would eat. That's how we survived. During the summer months, we had stuff growing around the house, cherry trees, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, you name it. The cherry tree was in my neighbor's yard. And so she was an older lady, named was Annie, sweet old lady, and I would ask her if I could have some cherries out of her tree. I was hungry. And she made a deal with me. She said, if you pick me a bushel of cherries, you can have as many as you want. So my little frame got up in that tree as high as I could go. All right, I got her cherries, and I took the rest for us, or as many as I could get hold of. And that lasted for 3 or 4 years. That was my everyday. That was my normal. And I tell you that was my normal because there's nothing more traumatic than being pulled away from your family. Even though social services meant well, it is still a traumatic experience. So the trauma of poverty, on top of the trauma of being pulled away from your mother and your brothers, one of which I still have not seen again to this day or reconnected with. So keep that in mind. The mandated reporter, which was my principal at the time, knew something was going on, so he contacted social services. My mother, God bless her, for everything she had going on, she was slick. she knew how to hide us. She knew how to hide us in sheds, hide us under clothes, in the attic, in the woods, whatever it took. The problem was that big Chevy Caprice barreling down that gravel road gave them away every time and gave her enough time to allow us to escape, or so we thought. So one day in 3rd grade, I'm 8 years old, we get intercepted at school. Social worker tells me, we're going to see a movie. I say, okay, that's great. But where's Chris and Moses? The 2 brothers that did not come along with me. Noah, my brother below in age, 2 years younger than me, he came along with me. So we're sitting there, driving, and we end up at this big, beautiful Victorian house somewhere in Rappahannock. I say, oh, this does not look like a movie theater, but, let's see what happens. So they drop us off. The social worker talks to this nice family, nice white family. And I mention that because I will make a point about that. We talked about, in the last presentation, we talked about some interesting things on race. So this white family takes me in, children, let me play with their toys, everything's going fine. But this is definitely not a movie. I did figure that part out. We're not at the movies. So social worker takes off, and that's it. Now, that night was the first night that I sat down with a family and ate an actual meal. Meatloaf, green beans, mashed potatoes. Real good. Real nice. However, I could not stop thinking about where my mother was at. Where was Moses? Where was Christopher? I'm supposed to take care of them. How can I take care of them if I'm here? All right? For the very first time that night, I also slept on my own mattress. And I cried myself to sleep. because I knew I was not going to see my mother or my brothers again for a very long time. So that's what I mean by trauma. Now, this wonderful white family wakes me up the next morning, it's pancakes and sausage. I was like, I can get used to this. This is nice. It's not squishy. There aren't roaches crawling out of the cornflakes. I'm not pouring water on my cereal. Sorry, I know some of you all are still eating, but that's some of our reality. Now, I didn't know what living outside of poverty looked like. All right, I needed new clothes. I wore that suit from kindergarten, that little race car suit. I had a blue one just like it. I wore that from kindergarten to third grade. Holes in it, way too short, way too tight. So one of the things they did was buy me some new clothes. They tried to get through my rat's nest of a head that hadn't been combed, because anytime my mom tried to put Vaseline or put a comb through it, I was taking off. Anytime she wanted to bathe me in that galvanized tub, because we didn't have running water, you had to go down to the river, get water, you had to use an outhouse. Any of that stuff was the bane of my existence, and so I was running off. So you can imagine how dirty, smelly, and nappy my head was. So this poor mother, my new foster mother, broke a set of clippers, broke a set of scissors, trying to get through my head. And that was my new life. That was it. I did get to visit my mother a couple weeks later, but then she was hauled off to a psych ward down in Staunton, Virginia, and so I did not see her again for several years. I did get to see my brothers one last time, but Moses, he was adopted, never heard from him again. Chris would actually come into the picture a little bit later, but he was okay. That put my heart at ease, because that entire time I was stressed. I didn't know what was happening to them. They could have been locked in cages for all I knew. So that was some relief. So I went on with this family, living a pretty normal life, and then something happened. They had to move to Culpeper, which wouldn't have been a big deal, except now my friends, the only thing I had left in my sense of normal, now I have to make new friends. This scared me to death, but we went ahead and moved anyways. Now, moving to a predominantly black school, all right, I'm going to call them out, Floyd T. Benz, in Culpeper, Virginia. This was my rude introduction to race relations and expectations. Right? My expectations as a black boy, the type of clothes I was supposed to wear, I did not have on. Right? I had on a big long sleeve polo shirt, black and yellow. I looked like a bumblebee. I had Wrangler jeans on, which were the wrong jeans to have on in this school. All right? And boy tennis shoes, which they called Safeway sliders. So, and I still had a messed up haircut. So, target on my back from day one. I do want to back up a little bit, because that 5th grade year was probably the most traumatic experience out of all of it. But I will back up and say, from kindergarten to 3rd grade, before I went into foster care, I missed 151 days of school. So you can imagine how far behind the curve I was, all right? Those truancy laws that exist now, all right? There's my little picture waving there, that little kid saying, hey, it's my fault, my bad, all right? But nevertheless, I did end up catching up probably about my sophomore year of college. I ended up realizing that, hey, I can read, I can do complex math, but it took a long time, all right? So that 5th grade year, the only lesson I learned that year was to grow a set of eyes in the back of my head. Right? That target from day one got me pushed down flights of steps. It got me gang jumped When I was just trying to use the bathroom, they cracked my head up against the urinal. They threw me into the stalls, beaten and bloody. Anytime I told the principal, they said, "Oh, you're okay." Told the teacher what was going on, she laughed at me. So there was no one on my side there. And I fell into what I can only assume was a deep state of depression. All right, life was over for me. All right, no one was on my side. I didn't feel like my foster family understood what I was going through. And so social services got wind of it, the social workers got wind of it, and they took me away. All right, put us in another home, Noah and I, together. Now we're back in Rappahannock, yes. Now we are with a black family, all right? That'll solve everything, right? Except it didn't, all right? Now I had anger issues to deal with because I never got to fight back against those boys. It was 5 against 1. What was I supposed to do? Okay, so now I'm dealing with unchecked anger issues. Don't know how to deal with that. But now we're with this black family, this mother, single mother. I have no idea what in her heart of hearts made her take on 2 boys, but thank goodness she did. You know, she got me hooked up with a nice high top fade. All right, it was looking like the Fresh Prince. All right, it had the purple. I even had the purple zebra print pants. All right, it had the bright pink shirt. I was wilding out. All right, it was looking good. All right, looking black, I guess. All right, or at least part of the black culture that I was not at 40 Benz. So that should solve all my problems, right? Got the cut. All right, looking sort of cute. I have the clothes. I have I'm back at home. However, I still have anger issues. And as I said at the time, in 6th grade, I'm still stupid. At this time, we're reading chapter books. I can't read. I can't comprehend anything. All right, we're doing algebra. Why are the letters mixed in with the numbers? What is going on here? All right, might as well have been Chinese. All right, it wasn't working for me. So guess what? They got me more frustrated. All right, so now I'm stupid. Now I'm weak. Now I'm alone. Authority is against me. The entire world is against me. All right. So it's me versus the world. I'm going to act out. All right. When you see these students acting out, and you wonder, hey, that's not the kid that I met the other day. What happened? All right. This is what's going through their minds. All right. And it builds up over time, and they act out on it. So I acted out. I cussed at my teachers. I hit people who were my friends. And what set it off, what set everything off, was when I finally found an outlet, and authority took that away from me too. I discovered writing. Right? I wasn't great at it. I still have it in the Trapper Keeper, believe it or not. I look at it from time to time just to give myself a good laugh. But you know, misspelled words, run-on sentences, the whole nine as a 7th grader. But they're writing movie scripts. I was just like my mother. You know, she was always writing songs and things like that. And I picked that up from her, that creativity. And it was just nonstop writing. But it was an outlet for me. It was an escape. I finally found something that I was good at. And I wasn't going to show it to anyone because people suck. And they ruin things. All right, especially adults. All right, so I'm not going to show anyone. So we're in science class one time, and I'm minding my business. I finish up before anyone else, and I bring all of my writings out. And I start writing. The teacher said, I told you to sit still. And sir, I'm not doing anything. I'm not hurting anyone. All I did was pull out my writings. And that was it. He took it in front of the class, ripped it in 4, and threw it in the trash. All of my writings. All of them. So I didn't do anything at that point because I was in shock. Went to lunch, and poor Mrs. Gorfine, my English teacher after lunch, had to deal with an explosion like no other. All right? I yelled. I just let out this primal scream that came from nowhere. It was built up from all of those years of rejection and not understanding what's going on. No one's telling me the truth. And I just laid into that classroom. I threw every single chair. I broke a window. I broke ceiling tiles. The class had to be evacuated. All because seemingly from that one incident. But it wasn't. It wasn't just the one incident. It was the build-up, years of build-up that led to that. Now that doesn't justify it. My behavior was unacceptable. However, if you understand what's going on in a child's mind, you can prevent that. All of it could have been prevented if the teacher would have just told me to put it away, right? He didn't have to rip up the only thing that I treasured in this world after everything that I've been through. But he didn't see it that way. He was an authoritarian. That being said, I was lucky I wasn't suspended, but that wasn't the end of my anger issues. Now that I let it out, I found out that I had more. It was a lot more. And the students, innocent or not, bear the brunt of that. I hit a kid for pushing me in kickball. All right, I bloodied him to a pulp, and his mother looked at me like I was the second coming of the devil. I mean, she was teaching in the school, and it did not go well. I thought she was going to kill me. I hit teachers, I cussed at teachers, I cussed at the principal, and I kept getting suspended. They kept throwing me out of school, and it was a vacation for me. I didn't want to be there anyways. I had food now. I had clothes. What do I need school for? I can't read anyways. So what's the point? So the other thing with all of that missing school, all of that trouble, they're passing me along. They're passing me along. All right? And so now I'm with my peers, but I'm so far behind them, it seems like I may never catch up. Now I'm in high school. Well, what they call high school, it was 8th grade, and you talk about a shock to the system going from an elementary school to 8th grade in high school. Now I'm not so tough. These kids are big. Maybe I should watch myself. I didn't, because my ego was out of this world. All right, so I decided to call this, I still call them fake gang members, but they thought they were part of the Crips, and Rappahannock. I was like, what are y'all controlling, 2 trees? Because there's nothing here. Nevertheless, I got it in my head to call them the Goof Troop. And so they were all after me. And I don't know if my friends got together and paid them or what, but it eventually stopped. They chased me to the bus, they chased me wherever they could find me. And, you know, like I said, back in 5th grade, I grew a set of eyes in the back of my head. I was watching for them all the time. They never caught me, but I got lucky. And I didn't stop there. I started picking on kids that were way bigger than me until one finally set me straight. He clocked me right upside the temple, knocked me out in front of everybody. I was like, okay, maybe I should stop this. Just maybe. And I did. I went back to cussing out teachers and things that were, you know, safer. And teasing girls and all that stuff, or picking on people. However, I still wasn't fulfilled. I was still angry, hot mess. On to 9th grade. Now I'm just not trying at all. I've failed everything up to the last reporting period of the year. And I said, well, I didn't say, I didn't give a damn. My foster mother, it was thanks to her and her come to Jesus talk with me that set me straight. Because she was the last person that believed in me. And when I lost her, I realized I'd lost everything. Because she told me, if you fail 9th grade, which it looks like you are, there's nothing I can do for you. You're going to a juvenile detention center because nobody's going to want a little, you know, punk of a black boy who can't listen to anyone and won't even try. That set me straight. That's all it took. And I have no idea why. I did both of my families were into religion. I was raised Southern Baptist, but I didn't believe in prayer because prayer never brought my family back to me. But this one night, I decided to try it for myself. I never prayed for myself. I always prayed to get my family back together. So I did that, and I woke up the next morning, not for that reason, probably because my mother scared the hell out of me, but I woke up and I brought all my books home out of my locker, and I started studying, and I started reading, and I started asking my friends for help. I started asking my teachers for help, and once they saw that I wanted to help myself, then that turned the tide. But it took a long time, right? One thing I always think about and I always give thanks or gratitude towards is these folks never gave up on me. I was a hellion, I admit it. But had they given up on me, my life trajectory would have changed drastically. Think about that 9th grade year had I ended up in a juvenile detention center. There was no way I was going to college. There was no way I was going to earn a PhD or write an article that has been cited by 60 scholars all over the world. All right, that's my contribution to society, among other things. There's no way I would have 3 wonderful, brilliant children who were going to do things for this society that I could have only dreamed of. All because of that one moment, right? And that's sometimes that's all we get. Right, you think about those 500,000 foster youth throughout the nation, and think only 3% of them are going to get out of this and become self-sustaining adults that we want in our society. All right, the rest of them are going to likely be incarcerated, end up homeless, or repeating the cycle. And it's not due to any fault of your own. Here's the deal. You all are doing the good work. You all are cementing your legacy as helping professionals. The problem is there are so many systemic gaps to fall through. Once they're out of your sight or out of your hands, there's nothing you can do. There's only so much any one individual can do. So that being said, I did discover something. The other thing you want these children to discover is that they're good at something. Whether it's an outlet like writing or art for me, or what later became sports. Now, we tried basketball with me. I always disappoint people. People say, hey, do you play basketball? Like, no. Hell no. I don't. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. I can't shoot. I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn trying to shoot. I can block someone. I used to be able to dunk before my knees decided that they wanted to be 75 years old. However, track and field, that was my thing. All right? You want to get them trying different things. Okay, so I wasn't great at basketball. That's not the only thing out there. There was baseball, but I didn't keep my grades up. I was just getting good. I was just starting to ding homers and make diving catches and stuff, and I let my grades go. So I could have been a phenomenal baseball player, but again, I let things go. However, track and field came along at just the right time, and when it did, I met my next saving grace, which was my track coach. My track coach said, hey, Adam, have you ever thought about going to college? Right? Planted that seed, right? That little bit of confidence. So someone, a champion, has a little bit of confidence in me. That makes me feel good. All right, that lifted my spirits up a little bit. But then I'm sitting here thinking, I'm poor, I'm country fried as can be, and I'm black. People like me don't go to college. It was just, like Chloe said in her last speech, these are things that are ingrained in us early on. People like us don't go to school. However, that little seed got me thinking, what if I could be something better? What if I could do something with my life, find a purpose? And so, kept going with track and field. I was ranked 3rd in the state of Virginia without a track, so I had this raw talent. I got it, I'm gonna be an Olympian. I'm gonna be an Olympic hurdler. It didn't happen. So, spoiler alert, it didn't happen. I wanted it to though. But, you know, you're humbled when you realize how fast 2 seconds are in track and field. You're quickly humbled and realize that you better have a plan B. So my plan B at Eastern Mennonite University was business. You know, I could start a business. I could help other people doing that. And so that's what I decided. I decided I was going to finish my degree. I was going, you know, after I finished high school, I'm going to finish this degree and I'm going to make something of myself. I want to help other people. I just don't know how to do it yet. So here I am, trying to redefine how we look at today's troubled youth. All right? Instead of at risk, I love the term at promise. All right? It gives them hope. It gives us hope. All right? I won't read off that definition for you, but think about it. All right? In California's legislature, I believe back in 2019, don't quote me on that, but it was a few years ago, they changed all of their literature from at-risk youth to at-promise youth. All right? Has it made a difference? The data will soon tell. However, the way people look at those youth has made a difference. And that instills hope in us as well. All right, child resiliency. Yes, I went through an issue, but look at me. Do I look like a victim to you? All right, I'm not a victim. All right, that was just part of my story. That was a chapter in my story. And now here I am today, up here making an $80 Burlington suit look good. That's what I do. All right, so perceiving the resilient child, all right, instead of the victim, all right, they don't want to be perceived as victims either. If you ask them, they don't want to be tagged as a foster child. They don't want to be tagged as anything but normal. What I wanted to be called more than anything, out of all the names I was given, I wanted to be normal. And that was the one thing I never got a chance to be until now. But now I know I'm weird and I'm okay with that. So it's all good. You know, you build that self-confidence and you get to define yourself. And normal is not as cracked up as it's made to be. All right, post-traumatic growth. I want you all to remember this one because now that they've been through this situation, traumatic as it may have been, there is a period of growth from that. People always ask me if I could go back and change it, would I? And my answer is always no, because it made me who I am today. I am stronger for it. I realize that I have different thinking capabilities, and I'm able to stick with things that are uncertain longer because of what I've been through. And so I see that as my superpower rather than my setback. Or perceiving myself as a victim, saying, oh, I can't do this because I was in foster care. And that's not an excuse I can use at 43. So now, this is non-scientific, but this is something that I came up with many years ago, about 10 years ago. Trauma spectrum. You deal with things differently depending on what the kid has been through. All right? If it's sexual abuse, obviously you're going to handle that differently than verbal abuse. All right? And there are various programs. I won't go through all of them right now. You know, and you think about mine, or I think about my children, and the only trauma they've experienced is me taking their iPhone for a week. Dad, I need Snapchat. I need to talk to my friends. I was like, no, you don't. So you need to think about what you did, you know. But to them, oh no, I don't have my phone. You know, and I'm 16, and you know, I have to live like I'm in 1994. So whatever, right? Not my problem. You should have thought about your behavior. But nevertheless, in all seriousness, I don't know if you see that red line popping up. That's where I would place myself on the trauma spectrum. So a lot of people ask me, have I dealt with it? No, not in a professional sense, but writing my book, Broken Child Mended Man, was the most therapeutic thing that I ever went through. All right, telling you all that story, this story today, it took me 10 months to write the book. I cried for the first time, and who knows how long. I meditated, I prayed, did a little bit of everything to try to get through that, and not realizing how far I had pushed that down, because as a man, you know, in his 30s, you're not supposed to express those kind of emotions. You're not supposed to talk to anybody about that. We're tough, right? Pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. You're going to be all right. Tough it out, man up. Right? That's what I was taught. That's what I did. But I could not do that. I could not suppress those emotions and write the book at the same time. And so that therapy, the act of letting it go on paper and the emotions that I was holding in was therapeutic. All right, let's talk a little bit about failed solutions. I hate that so many of our children don't get the chance that I got. I'm lucky. For everything I went through, I'm lucky because I survived it. And I survived it because of helping professionals like yourselves who go day in and day out, helping these youth achieve something better than this. All right? Over-medication is another one. I witness this in West Virginia all the time. It's sad. It's sad to see a kid's demeanor, entire personality change from a pill or a combination of pills. There are several states, Florida and Pennsylvania come to mind, where they had to write laws to stop people from over-prescribing medication to kids. What does that do? Think about it. They age out of the system at 18. None of us had the answers at 18. Okay? You need a support system. You need resources. But all of a sudden, they're cut off. Now they're drug dependent, which has contributed to the substance use disorder epidemic that we have today. I'm certain of it. Consider it over. There is hope, but it takes a system. All right, a system that doesn't have so many gaps. All right? How many of you all have heard of the social determinants of health? All right, social drivers of health. A handful of you. I encourage you to look into it, because if the child doesn't have one of those, that's a gap, and that's a gap they can slip into and recreate the cycle, or stay in poverty, or worse, end up dead. All right, so here are just some ideas for you all. All right, I think, oops. That's what I get for trying to be too fancy with the animations. All right, so coping mechanisms, like I said, writing, that was my outlet. Think about it, you can't always save a foster child or a troubled youth from themselves, all right? But you can give them some ideas. These are talking points. You know, it may not be mindfulness. You know, it's hard to be mindful or practice yoga or anything if you're starving, right? Nobody wants mindfulness. You know, put some food in my belly. All right, that's the problem. You know, deal with the problem at hand. But when their belly is full, or when they have shelter, all right, their basic needs met, then start thinking about some of these coping mechanisms. Right, and there's a variety of them out there. For me, it was writing, track and field, helped with my self-esteem. Right, I was finally good at something, and that made all the difference in the world. Right? And it doesn't have to be sports. You know, if I had to do it all over again, I would have probably still chosen sports. But I may have added chess or something like that. One of my favorite stories in my little hometown in West Virginia I just won my third term on school board last night. One of the things that I wanted was to bring them into the 21st century with technology. People, the cynics, you'll meet cynics everywhere, especially when it comes to youth. These youth are just trouble. They just need their ass beat. They just need, this or that. Something negative, something cynical. I said, you know what? It doesn't matter what zip code they're from. We're going to do this. We're going to introduce robotics into this community and see what these kids can do. Because if you put the bar here, down here, that's all kids are going to reach. That's all they're going to be inspired to reach, right? But if you put it up here, I guarantee you, troubled or not, or I promise, as I like to say, they will reach it. And these kids did. All right, so we took the VEX robotics program. I know the CEO, in case y'all want to get involved in that. He gave us some packets and some robotics and all of the toolkits that go with it. And these kids started putting them together. There were 4 different teams in the community. And the kids who had nothing going for them because they couldn't afford sports or they couldn't afford other outlets, they had this free robotics program and they were shining. They were thriving. Right? They were thriving in the way of putting the pieces together. One kid understood that. People thought he was dumb. He wasn't. But he did come from a home that lived on the dirt floor, and he didn't know where his next meal was coming from. That didn't mean he didn't have potential. It just meant his life circumstances were unfortunate. And that's it. Those kids went on to compete down in Louisville, Kentucky with 10,000 other kids representing 35 countries. And there was little old Barber County, West Virginia in the mix. Because I told them, I believe in you. And the teachers who took on the program believed in them too. And that's all it took. Okay? One champion in their corner. All right? And they will rise to the occasion. All right, and you all are, I love what you all are doing with the therapy and trying different things. I saw something for pet therapy out there. I love it. I absolutely love it because sometimes talking it out doesn't work. A lot of kids don't want to relive their trauma. I know I didn't. And I didn't even know how to articulate it at the time. And so that's another problem. So sometimes just petting a dog will make them feel better. And that's the gist of it, right? That's what we want at the end of the day is we want them to feel better. We want them to be able to cope with their trauma. All right? And so a mixture of these things, I think, are the best way forward. Okay. Education, I preach this all the time. Education was my absolute saving grace. Even though, I'm my own worst critic, and I will say back at that time, I was dumb as a rock because I was. But I ended up reaching my potential because there were people who believed in me, right? People like yourselves. So don't ever sell yourself short, even if you have a rough day. You're going to have rough days. I gave my champions plenty of rough days. I embarrassed my track coach after everything he did for me because this kid was talking about my mama. Right? Don't talk about my mama. Even though I wasn't with her, he said way too much. I had to go on the track and show him some business, beat him by a good 5 seconds, and told him I owned his track in not so many kind words. And if he ever steps to me again, so on and so forth. And so, we do bad things. All right, that's the nature of children. Even untroubled children, you still get into mischief. So think about it. Education, their path forward. It doesn't always have to be college. Sometimes it can be vocational. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everyone's prepared for college. And I saw that firsthand teaching at a university for 2 years. Don't push that on everyone because some kids are simply not ready. But they can do other things. All right? I'm a huge advocate for restorative discipline. It does not always work. I will admit that. There are some kids that, psychologically are beyond it, and other measures have to be taken. But don't throw them away for one bad situation. Don't throw them away. All right? Believe in them. Everyone in here should allow for grace. All right? And everyone in here should believe a child is capable of redemption, right? Redeeming themselves beyond their circumstances. All right. What do I mean by holistic communication? Tell the truth. Don't sugarcoat it. There's no reason to tell a child that they're going to a movie theater and they end up at these weird kids out of this weird family's home. Tell the truth. Kids understand more than we give them credit for. All right? It would have been phenomenal, and I think it would have changed the course of my behavior had I known where my brothers were at. Had I known where my mother was getting help in a psychiatric facility for her issues. It would have made a tremendous difference. All I wanted was the truth, and I didn't have it, and so you fill that gap with the worst possible thoughts. All right? If someone doesn't tell you, you're making it up in your mind. And that's scary. That was a scary place for me to be because Moses was dead. He was a baby. He was 18 months old. If I didn't feed him, who was going to feed him? My mother mistook motor oil for milk. She was so drunk one night. And so motor oil got into milk, and my brother's sitting there puking up black, vomit, substance. I look, and it was up to me as an 8-year-old. My brother's drinking oil, and so I've got to rip this thing out of my mother's hand. I've got to take him, wash his mouth out, and get him some real milk. All right? Those kind of things, that all sits with you, all right? And I'm telling you that part because it was up to me to take care of them. And so since I didn't know the truth and I couldn't take care of them, all of this, everything that happened, this whole storyline, it was my fault. All right? As a child, as an 8-year-old child until I was about 16, it was my fault that my family separated because no one ever bothered to tell me the truth. So just tell kids about the process, about what's going on, about how you're there for them. You're not going to give up on them. You're not going to let go. All right, you're going to help them get through this. Lastly, self-care. We need you here. Point blank. One thing for these children, one thing they need more than anything is a consistent champion in their corner. If you burn yourself out and you have to give up because this job is just too tiring, and I know you're under-resourced, underpaid, and underappreciated by society, I know firsthand. I get it. But the work you all are doing is the absolute most important work. So self-care is necessary. You can't do it all. Look at the people around this room here who can help you with this process. Who can help you get them to make sure that they have food security or housing security or access to health care. Okay? You don't have to do it all alone. There's a wonderful system out there that you all are part of, and all of us tend to operate in silos. I love what Mandy said earlier, and the president said earlier about getting all of those resources together. That's where we need to go with this. And, so get rid of the rugged individualism and working in silos and make sure that you're working together. Right? That's where the secret sauce is, to making sure that this percentage expands 20-fold, this success, all right? Going from 3 to 5% to 60, 75%. All right, I can dream because the potential is there. We just have to work together. But first and foremost, take care of yourself. Take that vacation. All right, yoga's not going to cut it if you've been working 70 hours a week. All right, take that vacation. Get down to Florida, kick your feet up, get on the beach. Don't think about the work for a little bit. You deserve that. You've earned it, and then some. All right, I'll leave you all with a few quotes. I encourage you, if you're in the foster care recruitment space, my 2 children's books are wonderful gifts, just saying. And I'll leave you all with resources, books and things like that that aren't associated with me, but I really respect those people in their fields. Questions? We have time for questions? Yes?
Are your books listed, are your resources listed on your website?
Are the resources listed on my website? No, but can we give them, they can have the slide deck if you can. If not, reach out to me on adamstarks.com and I'll make sure you get it.
Or email the Triumph Over Trauma email address that's on the back of the program.
Anyone else? Don't be shy. I know you all are tired, but you want just stay awake post lunch, so I'm 5 for 5. I'm going to give that to myself. So, good job. Yes?
How they do at the robotics championship, they might too.
That's a great question. So how did they do at the robotics championship? They, if I recall, this was pre-COVID, so in about 6 years ago. My understanding was they placed in the top 300. Yeah. But again, it was experience as much as anything for those kids because a lot of them would have never had a chance to leave Barber County. Yes?
I just wanted to know, so anger was kind of your outlet, alcohol, drugs never was an issue?
For me, now, I will say alcohol was not, hard alcohol was an issue in college. I did slip into it. I'm very open about it in the book. Jack Daniels was my best friend, and that until he wasn't, until I realized I was messing up just like the rest of my family did. And my wife, what actually cut me off from it was my wife said that whiskey made me mean. And we were married in college, and I said, oh damn, what have I done? I quit cold turkey, and I haven't had any since. Now, my red wine, I have to have my wine. But just a glass or 2 a night, so mellows me out. Yes?
I'm not a professional, so I'm a little bit
That's okay.
shy of asking something maybe so basic. But what advice, you said tell the truth, and I believe in that too. And I just saw the movie Nowhere Special, you know, where that's powerful. And they involved the 4-year-old really in the adoption selection process in a way. What kinds of questions should a new foster parent ask a new child in their home when they first arrive? What are some of the best questions to indicate right away, I'm interested in getting to know you, and especially when the child may not even know themselves?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say, I think first and foremost they would be impressed that you ask that, but they may not answer it right away because they don't know the answer. So there are a variety of age-appropriate ways to ask that, whether they're a 5-year-old or a 15-year-old. And I would say, not what happened to you, but would you like to talk about your family? Okay, start there, because that's what they're thinking about. Whether they tell you or not, that's what they're thinking about. Because that experience, even though our society and social work means well, it's still a traumatic experience for the child. And studies show children who are not reunified with their parents don't fare well, all right? It's a traumatic experience for a lifetime. Yes?
I wanted to know, you had your outlet of sports. At what point did you stop doing sports and maybe have to build other coping skills? Because that was my experience as well. I was like, I had sports, the coping skill, and so I didn't have to do the other emotional part of it. So when did that start for you?
My sophomore year of college, I was laid up in bed with hernia surgery. And I was watching the Olympics in Greece. And the hurdlers, their times were so much faster than my time. And I said to myself, I'm not the kid that I was in Virginia, in high school. I'm not the man anymore. I was in the top 3, and one of the guys who beat me was a running back. He ended up becoming a running back for the Dallas Cowboys. But he had all of the facilities at his disposal, all right? And I kept up with him until like the last 3 hurdles. So in my mind, I was the man, I can do this. And then being laid up in that bed really humbled me. I was like, this isn't gonna happen. And not everyone comes to that conclusion. I taught at my local university for a couple of years. Every kid that came in there, oh, I'm gonna play ball. I'm gonna play professional ball. Yeah, I said, the NBA, it's 1 out of 150,000 athletes make it pro. I said, I'm not trying to crush your dreams, man, but you may want to have a plan B. And without telling them my story, you may want to have a plan B. And then they said, well, I'm going to go, if that doesn't work, I'm going to play Euro League. I was like, have you seen these Euro guys? I was like, it's not the 90s where the dream team just stomped on these guys. I was like, you're not going to be playing over there either. You need a definitive plan B, because those boys are strong now. And they're controlling the American League to a certain extent. But yeah, I would say my sophomore year, I realized that I was going to have to get a different plan. Because as bad as I thought I was not Olympic pedigree. Yes?
You mentioned your mom having a serious mental illness. Do you have a relationship with her now? Does she share a relationship with your family and your children?
Yeah, and like I said in the beginning, she wanted to love us, but she couldn't. She wrote us letters every week. Every week, she never missed. Handwritten, all the colors under the rainbow. I mean, she put a lot of effort into this. She loved us, she really did. And we kept up with her. She passed away from breast and lung cancer a few years ago, but right up until that moment, yes, we had a good relationship with her. Yes.
So I work in social services, and we try to facilitate the relationship with the children and their biological parents through the foster homes. I know you said you didn't speak to your mother for years. She I don't know if that answers my question, but did she write you letters while you were in foster care?
Yes, she did. Yeah, she was in that psychiatric ward, and I think it was Weston State Hospital. Yeah, she was in there for a good 4 or 5 years after I entered foster care.
But you didn't physically see her?
No.
Do you think that may have helped you if that relationship was facilitated a little bit better, kind of deal with your anger?
I think so. I think so, but she needed help beyond anything I could ever imagine. She suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, which I understand is a serious disease. Just what I've read about it, I'm by no means an expert on it, but it's a scary disease. And so that coupled with alcohol, which was probably compounding the problem, I mean, I can't even imagine how far gone she was.
Maybe one more.
Yeah, sure. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, were you able to reconnect with any other family members?
Yeah, a lot of them still live in Rappahannock. I've been all over the place in terms of putting that family back together. It just, for whatever reason, hasn't been in the cards, or maybe it's a lack of will. I don't know. I have visited the farm. The pond is gone, the outhouse is gone, and everything that was the bane of my existence has pretty much dried up. The gravel driveway is now paved, and so it just looks different. And I swore that outhouse was 2 miles away. Well, it wasn't. To an 8-year-old it was. But in the middle of the snow, a snowy day, it was 2 miles away. Based on the way I told it back then. But yeah, everything seemed to be a lot smaller. The cherry tree was gone. It was almost like history had erased itself when I visited, and it was sad.
I have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned, I think, that you had a foster family that was a single mother?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm a single parent, and I've been thinking about doing foster family, and so I think sometimes myself and maybe others who are having that thought can get the feeling that they are inadequate in that area to be able to fulfill that function. Can you maybe just share a little bit about that more to help encourage me and others?
Absolutely. First and foremost, do it. We need you out there, but there are so many more resources available now. You don't have to seem like you're doing it alone. My my foster mother, received I think it was a $275 a month paycheck for us back then, for each one of us, and that was all they gave her. Now there are things like respite care, and you don't have to do it all alone. So if you need them taken to a doctor's appointment, you can get involved with that foster care community, and someone can do that for you. If you're stuck at work or something like that, or they need to be picked up from school. So I would encourage you to look at the community resources available and all of the monetary resources available. It's not just that stipend that comes from social services. There's a lot out there for you in a lot of the communities if you have questions. And if they are complete hellion, don't give up on them. Just think of me.
Well, thank you so much, Dr.
Absolutely.
Adams.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate you.
And like I mentioned, we will be signing books during